Welcome to Mysteries Thursday, where we study the deep mysteries of the Bible, anomalies, and other controversial topics. Today I'm here with Luke, and Luke and I are going to talk about creation and what this means to mankind. Glad to have you with us today, Luke.
Thank you, David, for having me. Yeah. So looking at creation, it is quite an exciting topic because we're talking about beginnings,
Yeah,
and not only beginnings, but the beginning of the beginning. We look at movies, look at books, all these storylines. Everything has a good beginning to kind of help set up what's going on, to help you set up the whole plot, the whole what's going on into this whole storyline. We look at that beginning too is kind of the truth for the whole after part too. So it's quite important, first of all, just to have the right beginning and the right interpretation of it.
right. You've got to start from a constant point, from a starting point, and
Hmm.
and then know where you're going to the end. So it's very important to look at a beginning and find out where what the beginning was and how
Hmm.
everything started.
Yes, so that power of beginnings we see is quite crucial. We think even in when you're building a building, what's the beginning? Well, planning, the beginning of the thought, and then laying that foundation.
Yeah.
Once that foundation is laid, then you have something to build on, and then you have something to keep a firm structure and grow from. So,
Absolutely. If you don't put time and effort into planning and foundation,
mhm,
it doesn't matter what you put on top of it.
yes.
It's just going to fall down if it's not on a proper foundation.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what I see as the key for this world here too is the beginning of this world, the beginning of time, the beginning of what we have as a matter in space and all of that. Where did it start from?
Yeah.
And when you have the right interpretation from that, then all of a sudden you have something to build off of. And then it also is something that will stand when it's on the truth, when it's on those things that aren't shaken, when aren't uh, fallible or corruptible, all those kind of things. So that's why looking into the Bible, it is quite important to have that truth as with those who believe the scriptures are inspired by God, inspired by something that's incorruptible, having that truth to stand on.
Yeah, you've got if you don't have that foundation, if you don't have a pre thought out supposition of what's going on, then everything that you put on there is going to be weak, fall
Hmm.
apart. It won't stand the test of time. And I look at that from a worldly standpoint.
Hmm.
It seems like the world is trying to go backwards to figure out the beginning
Yeah,
instead of looking at a book that tells what the beginning was and moving forward.
absolutely. And the beautiful thing about that too is not only you find that truth, you find purpose too.
Mm.
You find meaning in life, and that's a big thing for this world today is finding that purpose, that meaning, or whatever that is to fill their void. They kind of feel lost, and they try all these different things. But the beautiful thing about truth is its simplicity, right?
No.
It's just so simple. As sometimes is like it can't be just that, but really it is trusting and obeying. It's so easy, but how easy it is for us to want to do our own fleshly ways of what feels right, what we want it to be, and so forth.
Absolutely, and I see that in what I call religion,
Yeah.
and I see mankind trying to develop what it thinks God wants,
Hmm.
and trying to do all these works to get there when it's just simple faith.
Yeah.
It's putting your faith and trust in Jesus Christ, not in your works.
Hmm. And that's where we come to the Bible. We look just in the first verse, right off the bat.
Mm,
It gives us the answer. You ain't
yeah,
gotta go far. It says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and earth."
yeah,
You think everything's solved right there. It seems nothing clearer than that. I mean, how can you confuse that? But really, there's a faith element too we have to come to
sure,
realize too, because although the answers are out there, we also have to believe in that truth source, that source that is sometimes not always seen with our eyes, but like faith is, we hear it and then we put our faith by those things from evidence. And what
yeah,
does the evidence show us? What do we see in our life that shows a pattern that also we can see, whether it's through the Bible or whatever answers, what is consistently accurate that also is aligning to something else? And that's something I found in the Bible. It's just you can't find the flaws of what doesn't make sense when you're looking for the answers as you can find it. Usually my interpretation is the hardest thing because
mm,
I have a hard time understanding some things. I'm not the smartest or the brightest, but when I think harder, when I try harder to understand it, it comes alive, especially when you think about the where it was rooted of the language and so forth. So trying just to break things down as simple as you can and take it like baby food. And so,
You know, you said something very important there, and I think that this is a worthwhile endeavor, and that is faith is putting your trust and faith in something, but not blindly.
mhm,
We actually have as evidences, and we have logic,
absolutely.
and we can see that the world itself, even while it's trying to bring a naturalistic
Yeah.
idea of what creation and how things started was, also is a endeavor in faith.
Mhm,
They don't have proof either. They have evidences. They have what they would call things that they can see and reason out. And
mhm.
so faith is not blind. Just
Yeah.
God said it, therefore it happened. We can actually study and look at stuff and put our faith into something logical.
Absolutely. And that's another thing I love about the scriptures.
Mm,
It's not illogical as so many
right.
times you see evolutionists or other things thinking like, do you even have a brain when you're looking at this?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't align. And they use such outrageous statements to make you feel like you're dumb or something so that you don't put your trust in it and that you don't know what you're talking about. And that really, I'm the smart person. You just need to listen to what I say.
Mm,
And you don't have the brain to reason out the right things that it's saying. I'm like, wow, that's quite amazing things to say from that when
yeah.
you can read through your own eyes and you can also reason from what God's given you. He's given us these things to
Yes.
understand, not at a complex level where no one else can understand it, but at a baby level too for those things that are so super important. So,
And there's even a verse in the Bible that says, God says, come and let us reason together.
mhm,
God is a God of reason and logic and purpose and foundations, like you say. And
yeah,
it's very important for people to understand God's not asking you to put your faith in him blindly. He gives you the evidences and proofs that you need to put your faith into.
yeah. I think of just when I go out in the world and you're trying to bring a good name, not for yourself but for God, right? If you're a follower for God, you should be a good testimony of
Mm,
that.
yeah.
And so then you get questioned about it, and they try to see how reasonable, how logical you really are at putting your faith in that. Then once you have a backstory, like you know what, this guy does actually know somewhat what he's talking about. He does have these principles and these things that aren't what you call illogical. There's
Right.
sometimes they think they're in delusion land or that they're not in the reality of what goes on day to day life. But this is a practical relationship with God for your day to day life.
Yeah.
Something that you need to uh, go into like I was thinking of the monks. Sometimes they
Mm,
go away and they
yeah.
do their own studying away from the whole world, but it isn't something you need to go away completely from the world to understand. It is something you can use your day to day life, and that's what we see through those people who had great faith. They're using it from their day to day life.
Absolutely, and God's there to back you up, to help you through these things. And
Mhm.
I think of all the things that you find in this book we call the Bible, and there's so much practical living knowledge in this Bible.
For sure.
And you know, God commanded a lot of things to the Israelites, but those things actually are worth their cleanliness laws and stuff that we need to know. And so God has provided us day-to-day living as
Mhm.
far as physical living, but there's also day-to-day living, spiritual living in here.
Mhm.
And a lot of people, like you said at the beginning, have this hole
Yeah.
and they can't figure out how to fill it. And they think that all this new age, this occultic, the naturalist movement,
Mhm.
the whatever's going to fill it, and that they can't ever seem to find a fill for that hole.
Yeah. And thinking about day to day living too, we sometimes get so lost from what we're supposed to do day to day, thinking we're supposed to have this outline and everything that we should have and live out your life with these checklists, goals, or whatever that is. But when you live your day to day life in this faith and belief in God, He gives you those things that a full list of things to work on for yourself, but
Mm,
also outwardly too.
right.
There's so much that you are to be constantly working at, constantly striving for. There's so much purpose too when you're trying to sharpen yourself, iron sharpens iron, and trying to build
Mm,
something. I mean,
yeah.
there's so much that goes on in an organization to build, and that's what God helps us with is building on His foundation. And so there's a beautiful thing too when it comes to the purpose He gives us when we have our faith in Him and we're living in that faith. And I mean, there's many times in my life as well where it's been not living my faith, and then I'm saying, man, what's the point of life? What's this? What's that? You get down and you get down and you down, and
Mhm.
you have to get so much down until you turn away from yourself. Is really what it comes down to, because you don't find the answers in
Yep.
yourself. You find the answers in God,
Yep.
and He literally gives you those things of love and joy, those things that make, first of all, give you comfort, and then also He gives you things of your skills and what you can do, and you find out what your skills are, and just to be a help from someone else or grow on what you know, what your skill sets, to build on upon those. So it's quite amazing when you do stuff like that.
Yeah, and as humans, we need that foundation. We need a beginning point,
Mhm.
and I think it's a great study and a great thought of that God provides a beginning point for everything.
Yeah.
He provides a beginning point for creation. I know over in 2 Peter 3:4 it says that the scoffers are going to come in the end times. They're going to say, where's this appearing? We keep talking
Mhm.
about Jesus is coming back, and we haven't seen him for years. And it says in there that they think all things have continued the way they are from creation. For this they are willingly ignorant. And I think that mankind is struggling to try to make God's creation irrelevant,
Mhm.
and so they can live the life that they want to live. But there's a very big important puzzle piece is called creation,
Yeah.
in that everything stems from this book of Genesis
Yeah.
for the rest of the Bible.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's something where, whether I talk to you or anyone, like if I said that this world is getting emptier, it seems less real, or it seems
Mm,
like we're
yeah.
more materialism, less caring about those things of more value, I would say.
Mm,
Because when you live your life on the materialism, on these things, and then let's say your health or something else goes wrong, all of a sudden those material things don't do so much for
yeah.
you. They don't give you that joy like it used to. And what does give you that joy is something deeper.
Yes.
And that's what God helps us see through trials, through tribulations, through these things that are difficult, is what really matters.
I don't know if you saw, there was a video that came out with Elton John, and Elton John is basically on his deathbed. He's
Hmm.
he's got a terminal issue, and of course he has lived quite the life. He's
Hmm.
been very flamboyant, open homosexual, millions and millions of dollars of all this stuff, and he spent about 45 minutes bemoaning the fact that he was going to leave it all behind.
Hmm.
He can't take it with him. It really means nothing.
Yeah.
I think in the Bible we have the Jesus talking about the rich man and Lazarus,
Hmm.
and the rich man had everything. Lazarus had nothing. Now that's not a picture of rich people can't be saved, and
Yeah. Yeah.
poor people always go to heaven. That's not true. But
Yeah.
but it what it tells you is the rich man had his reward
Hmm.
here on earth. And once we get beyond that, once you die and you take your next step into the afterlife, now what?
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what the Bible tells us too, is set your mind on things above, not on
Yes.
the things below, where rust and moth does decay and destroy. It's saying things that are higher values, things that last
Yeah.
forever. And as it's stating in the beginning, God, it's saying that God was there before creation. And so we see there is an eternal aspect. We see this Bible brings more to life than just what we see in our day-to-day physical lives. And so we have a greater plan, a greater purpose. And that's where we find God, and that's where we find God helping us with that too.
Absolutely. And even if you were to say that in the naturalistic evolutionary
Hmm.
outlook, there has to be that first cause. First
Hmm.
uncaused cause has to happen.
Yeah.
And the best thing that I've seen them say so far is nothing exploded and became everything. And there's so many holes in that.
Hmm.
But the Bible tells you, in the beginning, God. So
Yeah.
there was an existent being before anything else happened, a first cause, first uncaused cause
Yeah.
that made everything. And the Bible points us to that in the very first verse. That's a very interesting setup
Hmm.
for creation and for what God has got planned for us.
Absolutely, it is. So going through Genesis, we just covered the verse of the beginning, emphasizing time. there's more that goes on in this life than time. We got space, we got matter, we got life, all these different intricacies that we see through life. And Genesis covers all of that. There is so much in depth of how things came about, the foundation. And so that is what we would be looking in deeper, going through Genesis and all of the creation God had.
Sounds great. Tune into it with us next time where we investigate and look at these things in depth.